regulation should have to pass a simple test. Does it make life better or safer for American workers or consumers? If the answer is no, we will be getting rid of it and getting rid of it quickly.
In regulations, and they are clearly trying to cut into that. Melissa?
Blake, thank you.
Joining us now is Forbes Media Chairman Steve Forbes, Barron Senior Editor Jack Hough, and former investment banker and entrepreneur Carol Roth. Steve, we had this extraordinary comeback today. I'm wondering if it had any relation to what the president was talking about with regard to regulations. He's showing once again that he's actually doing something. He's not just talking about stuff. He's actually doing things, setting up these panels. You have said many times that regulations is a very serious form of a tax. That tax would be taken away. Is that why the market turned around today?
I think that obviously is a key part of it, David, because every president says they're against unnecessary regulations. Few follow through after the initial conference and flurry. The fact that the president keeps hammering on it, and he also announced in that order today that each department would have a regulatory officer whose prime responsibility is track these things. So there will be accountability, and just saying, instead of just saying to the agency, do it, and no one's accountable for getting it done. Now they have a point of responsibility. That's a good step in the right direction.
Jack, according to Adam Shapiro, our man studying what's happening with the stocks, there was a huge buy order that came in. Just shows once again, as soon as stocks begin to show any negativity, even if it's only maybe 11 points on the Dow to the negative side, somebody says, here's my opportunity. I'm not going to get another one to get in.
Well, look, if you look at stocks, suppose you're arguing that stocks look a little bit expensive here, maybe 19 times earnings. All you need is a sweeping corporate tax cut to bring that price down to 16 times earnings. Yeah. So maybe they're not that expensive. You're saying the president is doing and not just talking about it. I'm getting a little antsy. I feel like he's still delivering the sales pitch for what he wants to do. I'm ready for more specifics, and I think the market will be soon, too.
But, Carol, I love that first point that Jack made. Based on the taxes that may be coming, the tax cuts that may be coming, this market may be fairly priced, despite everybody worrying on Wall Street that it's too highly valued right now.
You know, it's interesting, David. I always say that investors like to buy the possibilities more than the realities. So I think the fact that there aren't specifics and there are a lot of possibilities still out there actually benefits the market. There is a lot of pontificating and hope that we're going to get the right types of tax cuts. I think that that keeps things moving up. I worry that when the specifics come in and maybe there's some disappointment there that things don't shake out the way that people had hoped, that actually may be a point of pullback.
All right, step into my office. President Trump creating an environment in the White House seldom seen in years past.
Where the White House doors used to be totally closed. They were closed, folks. You don't realize that. They were closed. They're now wide open. And they're open for people doing business for our country and putting people to work.
Jack, were they closed?
He's the king of the weird metaphor. What does it mean? I mean, the stock market was marching to all-time highs under Obama. It's still marching to all-time highs early on under Trump. I don't think the doors were closed, no.
Steve, what do you think?
Oh, I think the doors certainly metaphorically were closed to business people, entrepreneurs, people who created great things. It was a very hostile atmosphere, including regulation. And the fact the president is using executive orders to cut back on regulations, I think, is one reason why small cap stocks have done so well. They were hit hard under Obama. Then when Trump comes along, the market, those stocks move up. And by golly, he's starting to deliver on regulations. That's huge. Small business can't afford those things.
Carol, I was talking to entrepreneurs in Texas yesterday who were saying they feel completely different about the possibility in light of who's in government, that they felt stifled over the past 8 years with regulation and health care, and now they feel like taking risk again.
I'm so glad that you brought that up, Melissa, because you know that there's often a disconnect between what's happening on Wall Street with the stock market and what's happening on Main Street with entrepreneurs. And so what President Trump is doing, everything from the executive orders to reduce the regulation to pro-growth initiatives to having conversations with the business community, is creating a lot of optimism with entrepreneurs and small businesses. We have 28 million small businesses in this country, so it is a tremendous opportunity to boost growth.
But, Steve, we got to have the tax reform, right? Tax reform, got to happen.
Good tax reform. No
Yes.
crazy 20% national sales tax.
No,
tax.
right. Yes, yes.
Tax
I'm
cuts.
glad you got that in.
Tax
Thank
cuts.
you.
Yes.
Tax cuts. All right, go ahead, David.
Huge tax cuts.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, speaking of the devil, Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin taking the necessary measures to get the economy moving again. It just might take a little time. Listen.
We have a great team. We're very focused on economic growth. As I've talked about before, we're committed to getting to 3% sustained economic growth, and we think we can do that. But in either scenario, I think you're not going to really see the growth until next year.
Ooh, Steve, is he thinking too small here?
Oh, it's so small. He's got to think big. Why 3%? Why not 5%? After all these years of 1.8, 1.6% growth, get it back to the historic 200-plus year average in this country? And why not say if we get this tax cut now, make it retroactive Jan 1, you'll start to see it by year-end in the Christmas season? Have some optimism. This 3% stuff, piddle stuff.
Steve, I want to stick with you for a second here, because this is you're the flat tax guy. There were hopes that there would be a flat tax. Is there backtracking here all over the place? We have the backtracking on growth. We have the backtracking on taxes. In fact, rather than cutting taxes, we're hearing about adding a new tax. Where does this go? Does this concern you that maybe it'll affect rates?
Well, it shows that Washington's inherently timid, and this is where the president has to step in and say, no, we're going to go for it. It's going to be big, and it's going to be retroactive, no new taxes, stop muddying the waters, because the legislatures, there are hundreds of people. You're never going to get anything done. It needs a firm kick from the White House.
But again, we're looking at those rates. The president was going to cut the corporate rate down to 20%, individual rates, top rate at 33%. Might there be a pullback there?
No, I think, if anything, on the corporate side, the president will lead with 15, let the Republicans raise it to 20. Don't negotiate with yourself. And on the personal rates, whack those even more. If you want to put a limit on deductions, go ahead. But whack those. And then let the Democrats try to negotiate them up. But go big. That's negotiating 101.
Steve, thank you very much. Jack and Carol, thank you as well. And don't forget